And we're back.
Hi, everybody. We're here with episode 84 of The Horror Guys.
84?
I'm Kevin,
I'm Brian.
and we're here to talk about horror movies.
As usual, we got four full-length horror movies and a short film for you. Old stuff, new stuff, and everything in between.
Good stuff, bad stuff.
Yeah, we cover it all.
Yep.
And this week, we've got some of all of that. We've got some good stuff, and we got some bad stuff.
Yeah,
we got some old
we
stuff
do.
and some new stuff.
Black and white stuff, color stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this week, we're going to start out with a little bit of Captive Wild Woman from 1943.
Third in the trilogy.
That's the first.
First in the trilogy.
And it's nowhere near as good as it sounds from the title.
Yeah.
We'll then
Or
move
the
ahead.
poster.
Then we'll move ahead in time to 1971, and we'll have some dinner with Countess Dracula. Then we'll spend the night over at the house with the Amityville Curse, and finally we'll head over to China and run away from some ghosts in 2008's Seventh Moon. And there's a creepy new short called Feeder that we'll talk about.
So,
Are you excited?
I am ready and excited.
You're ready? You're not so excited?
Well, I'm both.
All right.
Yeah. Let's do this thing.
Let's go. And we'll start out with Captive Wild Woman, the oldest film this week, 1943.
Classic.
77 years ago.
Classic, huh?
Black and white.
Black and white. Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Directed by Edward Dmytryk, written by Ted Fithian and Neil Varnick, stars John Carradine, Evelyn Ankers, and Milburn Stone. 1 hour, 1 minute. And there's a link to watch the full film on YouTube. Did you like it?
I did. Overall, I think I did. I liked it more than disliked it.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, decent for its time and pretty good makeup and special effects. And John Carradine when he was
Actually, I
young
think-
and spry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
There was a time when he was.
There was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the weakest part of this is actually the action scenes.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
There's a lot of lion taming and stuff in this. And
that was...
it's pretty tame by today's standards. It may
Yeah.
have been exotic back then.
Yeah. But the movie part of it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we start off at the docks, where a tiger and other wild animals are being offloaded from a ship. Fred Mason has just returned from his 2-year jungle safari, and he meets his girlfriend Beth there, waiting for him. He's been over there to capture more wild animals for the circus, because he's also the head trainer there. A tiger escapes, and everyone freaks out.
Except him.
Fred grabs a chair and a cane, and he cows the animal. Afterwards, on the cab ride home, Beth tells him that her sister Dorothy has been left in a sanitarium under the care of Dr. Walters. He's done miraculous things with his glandular treatments, and Dorothy just keeps losing weight, and they need to find a cure. The doctor thinks it may be a glandular disorder.
Science.
Yeah, all the way growing
1943
up,
science.
when we would see somebody who was horribly obese, my grandmother would say, "Oh, don't look at them like that. They could be a glandular disorder."
Yeah, my grandma was the same way. Yeah. That
And
was...
how often do you hear that today now that science is a thing?
Well, no, they're more specific. You know, they got, it's my condition.
Big bones.
My conditions.
Yeah. There goes half our audience.
Not just generically, glandular. No, they're more specific.
Yeah, okay. Well, Dr. Walters tells Beth that he experiments on wild animals to learn his secrets. He stops by to visit the circus with the other characters, and they meet Sheila, a trained gorilla. Walters asks about the cost to buy Sheila, but is told she's not for sale.
There's ways around that.
Yeah, Walters has run into a brick wall in his research, and the little animals he experiments on just aren't big enough or smart enough. He wants that gorilla, so he hires a guy to steal her. It's not long before Dr. Walters is the happy owner of a stolen gorilla. Walters pushes the man who stole her into the ape cage, and he's killed.
Yeah, who saw that coming? Oh, we did.
He didn't.
Yeah.
Walters wastes no time injecting the gorilla with his gland treatment. And he does a transfusion using Dorothy's blood into the gorilla. The gorilla then morphs into a completely human-looking woman. His nurse quits on the spot, saying, you know what she says, "There are some things man was not meant to touch."
There's always one.
If he keeps...
And what's on her forehead?
If he keeps this up, Dorothy will die so that her gorilla will live. Walters then kills the nurse so that he can use her brain instead. Well, that'll show her to speak up.
That's true science, where you don't mind killing a few people in the name of humanity. For the good of humanity, a few people must die, and that's the cost of doing good science. That's what this guy's philosophy.
You don't work for any of the big pharmaceutical companies, do you?
No, I don't.
I'm full of it this week. Okay.
Yeah.
He names the gorilla Paula Dupree. Where'd that come from? We don't know. And learns that she doesn't remember being an ape. He hypnotizes her to obey him. Walters takes her to the zoo for some reason, and she starts spooking the animals. There's an accident, and Fred is knocked out in the lion cage. Meat.
Nope.
Nope.
Because Paula
goes into the rescue, and she stares down a lion, which is terrified of her.
Instinctively, because she's queen of the jungle.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah.
Fred decides to hire her for the act. And it works. The animals all behave when she's around.
And she just stands outside the cage watching.
She just glares at them.
They behave themselves.
If she glared at me, I'd behave too.
She had a powerful glare.
It's not long, however, before Paula starts changing back. The upgrade is not a permanent thing.
Uh-oh.
Dorothy calls Beth. She desperately wants out of the asylum. Beth rushes over to visit her. Walters reveals his plan to Beth, and she is horrified.
As any sane person would be.
Yeah. There's a strong storm outside, and Walters mentions that she'd love to get her hands on me, talking about Sheila. So Beth opens the cage door and lets Sheila/Paula out. She immediately attacks Walters. Meanwhile, the power goes out at the circus while Fred is in the middle of what must be the longest wild animal show ever. It goes on for 20 minutes on screen while other things are happening elsewhere. Things get out of hand. The lion jumps on Fred just as Sheila the ape comes into the circus.
And she's all aped out now.
Yeah, fully aped again.
Yeah.
Sheila goes in the cage and rescues Fred.
But she remembers her man crush on Fred.
Yeah. But then a trigger-happy cop shoots Sheila in the back, killing her. The end. Never see her again.
No. See, I was mixing this up with the title because we've seen them all.
We've seen that. Yeah, we saw the third one just recently.
Yeah, I was mixing up. Yeah, this was the first one, and actually, I like this. I think the best of all of them.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think the rest all kind of try to copy it a little bit. Well, this was John Carradine's first starring role, and he's excellent here. He had been in other things, but not as a main character.
I can see why he went on to do a lot of other things.
He's suave, young, and coldly scientific. Evelina Ankers is good like always. Milburn Stone was cast in the starring role because he physically resembled Clyde Beatty, the actual lion tamer who did the stunts. So usually they hire the stuntman that looks like the star.
No, this way is the other way around.
They got the animal tamer and hired an actor that looked like him. Luckiest job ever. Well, there are lots of scenes of circus animal training that would never fly today. There was even a real scene of a lion fighting a tiger that wasn't intentional, but they started fighting as the camera was rolling and they left it in. Some animals were harmed in the creation of this film. The animal scenes go on for far too long, and they add very little to the main plot. Best I can figure is they were pandering to people who had never been to a real zoo or a circus, because those things weren't as common as they are today.
Yeah.
Look at the exotic animals.
Yep, exactly. 1943. Yeah.
Well, the werewolf-style effect when Paula becomes a monkey is actually very good. They had already... The werewolf had been out for a couple years, and they had improved on that a little bit. It was good.
And her makeup was good.
Yeah.
Looking at a still right now of her makeup.
Kind of very proto-Planet of the Apes looking.
Yeah.
Not quite as refined as those apes, but darn close.
Yeah, very good. I approve.
Yeah.
You should all see it.
Yeah. And then there was Countess Dracula from 1971 Hammer film.
Inspired by true events.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding.
Yeah, well, actually, yes. Directed by Peter Sasti, written by Jeremy Paul and Alexander Paul, stars Ingrid Pitt, Nigel Green, Sander Ellis, 1 hour, 33 minutes. Link in the show notes to pick this up. It's Amazon if you want it. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was okay. Thought it was kind of silly.
Kind of silly, with Countess Dracula?
Yeah, the premise of it. I mean, because it was based on a real thing, and then they totally made it not.
Yeah, if you're expecting, like Dracula's daughter or the son of Dracula.
No, not really.
No, not really.
No, it wasn't really a vampire. It was just, yeah, just weird and it was okay.
Yeah, the story is based on Elizabeth Bathory, a real-life countess from the 16th century, who is truly said to have tortured and murdered over 600 young virgins to give her longer life.
Well, supposedly...
So that much at least is reported to be true.
Supposedly she was really awful to work for, and she slapped a maid one day so hard that drew blood, and she thought that where the blood splashed on her, that her skin looked more youthful and glowy. Supposedly. That's what the legend, that's one legend I heard.
That sort of happens in the film, too,
Yeah,
but you're saying that part was true.
That's what I heard before I saw this movie.
All right.
Whether it's true or not, I mean, it was hundreds of years ago, and it's probably been highly embellished. But she was a real person. She did kill probably hundreds of young women.
Yeah, it's probably all exaggerated, but there's something to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can look her up in the history
It's
books.
a real history. Yeah. Now, she didn't actually change into a young woman, I don't think, when she bathed in the blood of her maidens. But
you don't know that.
But
she
we
could
don't
be
know
one of
that.
our listeners.
We don't know that. Yeah, she still might be around today doing it.
Yeah. Tell us your secret if you're out there.
Yeah.
All right, well, a man on a horse stops at a funeral. The old count has died, and the countess likes the look of this young man. At the reading of the will, the young man Toth gets the stables, the cottage, and the horses. Captain Dobby gets a bunch of old uniforms, which is not what he wanted.
He is displeased by this.
Yeah, and the countess is forced to split everything else between herself and her daughter Ilona, who has been out of town for the past 20 years.
Oh, and his head maid got a nice little bonus and got promoted to a resident of the house.
Yeah.
No longer a servant.
All right, well, later...
She's a key player. She becomes the countess's confidant and...
Renfield.
Apprentice, and, Renfield, basically. Yeah.
Will you be my Renfield?
Yeah.
So later, the countess accidentally cuts a servant and gets sprayed with her blood. Based on a true story.
Maybe.
She soon starts looking years younger. The servant suddenly goes missing, and the countess is looking a lot healthier than the previous night.
Yeah.
When young Ilona returns the next day, she's kidnapped by Captain Dobby's men, and the countess takes her place. No one notices. So this old woman looks young. She's taken the place of her own daughter. Dobby doesn't approve, but he doesn't give her away. I keep wanting to do the house elf thing.
Dobby is a free elf.
This ain't that elf. He'd just as soon have her old, because he's always been in love with the old countess. But then the countess / Ilona then seduces Toth and agrees to see him again the following night, because she's young and pretty, and so is he. The effect of the blood wears off, and she's suddenly old again. She gets her personal maid to assist in luring a young fortune teller into her rooms, and then she's
voila.
young again.
Mm-hmm. And it's sad too. She gets, every time she ages back, she gets a little worse looking. A little more warty, a little more haggard.
It's taken its toll.
That was a good progression of.
Well, the countess wants to marry Toth, and Dobby argues that it's too dangerous. She gets uglier each time she returns to her true age. Meanwhile, the real Ilona is still being held prisoner in the gamekeeper's home. And there's soon a rumor going around that the countess is a witch. Dobby tricks a drunken Toth into taking a bar wench home to the castle, where he's sure to be caught by the countess. She sees it all, but knows Dobby arranged it. The countess decides to use the prostitute's blood and makes Dobby assist. It doesn't work this time.
Why ever not?
The prostitute blood doesn't make her younger.
Huh. What's missing from this blood?
Well, Master Fabio has seen things here and there, and finally he pulls the book off its shelf, marked Blood Sacrifice. See, I keep my blood sacrifice book in the back of the shelf.
Oh, I just have mine on Kindle.
Kindle? Yeah. Yeah, he knows what's what, and explains that only the blood of a virgin may be used.
Aha.
He actually volunteers to assist them rather than be killed on the spot. Fabio is soon found hanging in his library.
Yeah, thanks for your help. We kill you now.
Finally, how often does that happen in horror movies? Never help the murderer. It doesn't pay.
No.
Finally, Toth catches her in the act, and she convinces him that he killed the prostitute, and he was so drunk that he also killed the librarian. You gotta be pretty drunk not to remember that.
But he's freaked out by it.
Yeah.
He believes her.
Yeah, and the villagers then find a whole pile of bodies in the wine cellar, and now the police get involved. It's all fun and games till they find the bodies.
Yeah.
Before long, nobody's happy. The Countess is constantly afraid of reverting. Dobby is tired of recruiting girls. Toth wants to get away from the insanity. And eventually, Dobby brings the real Ilona home to be the next victim. As Toth and the Countess attend their wedding ceremony, the servant Julie helps Ilona to escape.
Yeah, she can't quite bring herself there. That's a step too far, Julia.
Yeah.
Julie finally gets some humanity back.
Ilona hears the priest and decides to check out what's happening. The Countess reverts to an old woman right in the middle of the ceremony in front of everyone. And then she ends up stabbing Toth to death right in front of the whole church. See her talk her way out of that one.
No, I don't think so.
And the film ends with the Countess in the dungeon awaiting the hangman's noose.
Along with Dobby.
One of the villagers moans that she is Countess Dracula, a name not heard anywhere else in the film. The end. So they had to put a Dracula connection in there at the end.
Because, blood. She didn't actually drink the blood.
No, she's not a vampire.
Just bathed in it, yeah.
She's not even undead. She's just a blood witch.
Yeah.
Well, the old age makeup on Ingrid Pitt is excellent. At first, Kevin didn't realize it was old age makeup. He thought it was two actresses.
I did, yeah. And then I saw through it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
On the downside, there's no real vampires in the film and no real connection to Dracula at all. It's just the Countess making one blood sacrifice after another to stay young. I thought it started out really strong, but it stretched way too thin toward the end, and it drags on for far too long.
Yes, I thought so.
Yeah. A little too long.
Once the cat was out of the bag, I think that was the turning point where it was much less fun. Once Toth knew and...
Yeah, after a while, everybody knew it.
Yeah.
It's just she was in charge,
and
so
then,
you couldn't do nothing.
And then she was just, continuing on. And, that was the point at which it lost it for me.
Yeah, I think so too, yeah. Somebody should have done something right then. Alright, which takes us to...
A short film.
We did. We watched a short film this week called Feeder. Came out just this week, 2020. Written and directed by Thomas Simon. 9 minutes, 18 seconds. YouTube link in the show notes. Who stars in it? I don't have a clue. Alter is the distribution people that put all these videos out. And for some reason, they have this habit of shrinking the credits down on YouTube to the point where they are nearly invisible. And then in the comments, it's got the writer, the director, the production supervisor, the artist, the artificial snowmaker. 700 different credits, but they don't tell who's in it. I don't know.
There's 4 people in it.
At least,
At least, 5, yeah.
Yeah. It has a cast.
It does. And they're
Who
good.
they are, I don't know. They're really good, though.
And they're good. They're all very natural in their roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you like this one?
Well, I liked everything about it, except the story left me lacking, left me feeling unsatisfied.
All right. Yeah, I have words on that.
Too many questions left unanswered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you read my review?
No.
Well, a man buries a big old trap in the snow, like one of those giant bear traps, then blows a silent whistle to attract his prey. He has some kind of futuristic-looking glasses with a laser sight.
Goggles.
He's
goggly
very
thing.
cool-looking, probably infrared or something.
Mm-hmm.
Later, the hunter goes into a store and buys a cooler. We hear on the radio in the background that there have been disappearances, and the police have little to go on. You got to really be paying attention to hear that, too, because it's really quiet.
It is.
He stops at a gas station for a fill-up, and the station attendant there hears something growling in the back of the man's truck. What was that trap for?
Covered up under a tarp.
There's a young couple that leaves the gas station, and we hear that they're going camping. They find their spot and start to set up camp.
And it's happily ever after. They have a good time camping.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then the man with the truck shows up, and the truck and the big gun pulls up behind them, and then things get a little wild. All right, so why? What is it?
We don't know.
And who is he?
And it's a touch of science fiction, too.
Yeah.
When he pays for the cooler at the store, the clerk scans a tattoo on his wrist, and it's like a red flash of, some kind of barcode that's tattooed
Was
on
there a
his wrist.
tattoo or a chip?
I couldn't tell. It was just a quick red flash.
I just assumed this was after COVID when the vaccine chips everyone.
Don't spread that around.
You've heard that out. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, another one of those. But yeah, it's sort of science fiction-y, but it really didn't need to be.
That's the only kind of science fiction-y part.
The thing on his eye and the wrist
Might have been.
barcode chip or whatever it was there, and it seemed unnecessary other than it was a little cool, but
Made it cool.
no point to that on the story at all.
Made it cool and interesting.
You did.
Intriguing. We're talking about it.
Well, there are way more questions than answers here. Still, everything looks fantastic. It almost makes me want to go camping in the snow. Almost.
No, see, as I was saying when I was watching it, when we pull up to the camping site and there's a tent, and it's snowing, that's when I say, let's go to the nearest Holiday Inn.
You are not a camping person.
Especially not when it's snowing.
I have camped in the snow. It's fun.
Oh, good for you.
It's cold. Okay, well, the acting is all excellent here. There are, like you said, about 4 actors, and they're all really good. The cinematography is awesome. I thought it was very pretty at the campsite. And even the soundtrack is good. The problem is it's not a whole story. You definitely see enough to get intrigued, but I know I would like to see more.
Me too. So let's get on that. Let's make it a full length.
It does. It needs a full-length story. What is that thing? But not every full-length story can be good.
Talk about milking it out.
The Amityville Curse
Milk
from
it out,
1990.
people. Milk it out.
Directed by Tom Barry, written by Hans Holzer, Michael Kruger, stars Kim Coates, Donna Whiteman, and Helen Hughes, hour 31 minutes. And there's a link for Amazon if you should possibly want to go, but just don't. Just don't.
See, they're not even pretending to have it loosely based on true events at the Amityville house. This doesn't even take place at the Amityville house.
According to the story, it does.
It's
but
not the
it's
same.
not.
It's not. We know what that looks like, and this is not.
Yeah, every other Amityville horror, it's a white house with siding and those little triangular, little rounded windows and kind of the barn shape.
The one that looks like the actual house.
Yeah, and this is a brick building with just
big
normal
old-
square windows.
big
and
old
it's
farmhouse.
Not the same.
No.
Yeah.
But there might be ghosts or something. Yeah.
Yeah, there might be.
No.
Well, an old priest leaves the church and goes to take confession. We hear Latin being spoken as the credits roll. Nothing says demonology like Latin.
Mm-hmm.
The confessional shakes and something explodes. Then we see them pack up all the dead priest's things. 12 years later, Debbie and Marvin, a young couple who are house hunting, stop in front of an old house that's for sale. She keeps repeating that, I know this house. I've seen this house before in a dream. And the house is definitely a fixer-upper, and he buys it thanks to his business partner and his wife. The 4 are moving quickly, and this is really obviously not the same house from any of the other movies, as it's made of red brick.
And a completely different design.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not. Well, the 5 adults decide to spend the night there, even though the power doesn't work. One woman gets her foot stuck in the broken hole in the floor, and the other one cuts her hand on broken glass. And this is where I say let's go to Motel 6.
Mm-hmm.
Debbie keeps saying that she senses something in the house, but Marvin is a psychiatrist, and he thinks she's just a little goofy. Debbie wakes up in the middle of the night and sees some strange things. She finds an old confessional that spits out smoke. It attacks her, and she wakes up. It was a dream. Probably. A strange old woman walks in the front door and offers to help Debbie. She's Mrs. Moriarty, who used to house clean for the old dead priest from the pre-credit sequence. Debbie keeps seeing a boy and his dog outside, but the boy seems to keep disappearing. They find the priest stuff in the basement, and Debbie sees the boy hanging from a tree in the yard. Meanwhile, someone pushes Mrs. Moriarty down the basement steps. Well, the detective investigating her death explains that the old house used to be the church rectory. He also explains how the priest was murdered in the church around the corner, but the property of the priest went into their basement. Nothing about the DeFeo murders.
Not at all.
Someone shot the priest right between the eyes, and the murder was blamed on a simple kid who hung himself from their tree. They were never sure that the boy did the murder. Marvin finally starts to believe Debbie when he reads her journal. We then get a flashback to find out who killed the priest and why.
So it's a little bit of a mystery there.
Yeah, there's a murder.
Yeah, murder mystery, kinda.
Well, this house doesn't bear any resemblance to the house in any of the other movies. If you hadn't noticed, we can't quite get over that. They didn't even try. They didn't even bother licensing the exterior shots or the memorable window structure that makes the house recognizable. There's no special connection to anything else Amityville either. It's got a pretty involved plot, and it's not bad in itself, but it's got nothing to do with Amityville.
No, the Amityville horror, it's, in name only.
At one point, they're unloading the car, and the character makes an observation. So, this is Amityville, huh? And an old man in the bar mentions that boy who killed his family. And that's pretty much it. It's like they had a generic ghost story / haunted house film, and they decided what to name it based on what was popular at the time, and then filmed one scene and dubbed in another line to make it fit. The beginning starts out as a haunted house story, and by the end it's a whodunit. And toward the very end it's a slasher-type film. This one is all over the place. It's actually probably not as bad as I made it sound, but it is far from the best Amityville film.
My least favorite Amityville so far.
Of the ones we've seen so far. There's a lot
so
more
far, but there's more to come. It could get
there.
worse. Isn't that optimistic?
I suspect it will.
I don't know. We'll see. Well, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Did you spend any time in the dark lately?
Yeah, I wish I hadn't after this movie.
Next up we have...
This movie was creepy.
It was.
Yeah.
Seventh Moon from 2008, Chinese, subtitled, directed by Eduardo Sanchez, who does not sound Chinese, written by Jamie Nash and Eduardo Sanchez, stars Amy Smart, Dennis Chan, Tim Chow, 1 hour, 27 minutes. Was it made in China?
I believe
There's
so.
a lot of Chinese people in it, and it's supposed to happen in China.
I believe it was.
Okay. Well, we get this opening quote. On the full moon of the 7th lunar month, the gates of hell open, and the spirits of the dead are free to roam among the living.
No, it was made in the
Chinese
US.
myth. Okay.
USA.
All right. Well, it's supposed to happen in China.
Faked us out.
In China.
It's set in China.
A lot of the language is in Chinese, but it is an American movie. Okay.
Did you like it?
I like it better now, less than I know. I like it less now that I know it was really American. I was giving it a lot of credit for being a foreign film.
Faked us out? No.
Yeah.
It's a USA production.
I think I'm disappointed. Did you like it?
I did. Yes, I enjoyed it a lot. Thought it was creepy and well made.
Okay. And dark.
And dark. A little too dark sometimes.
Yeah, we're getting that a lot lately.
Stuff happens in the dark. Yeah, something's happening now.
Well, credits roll as Melissa and Yule celebrate their honeymoon in China by visiting various shops and things around town. She's American and he's Chinese. They give Mr. Ping, their guide for the trip, an expensive bottle of wine and a t-shirt.
And I have to say something about the opening, which impressed me. It really set the tone of the movie. I mean, they're doing all this fun stuff at a festival, and it's gorgeous and colorful, and it's creepy. The way it's filmed and the way the music is done, it makes you tense. It's ominous and tense, and I thought it really set
The scariest parade you've ever been to?
Yeah, yeah. It took some, all this happiness and made it unsettling. Yeah, I thought the credits were cool, how they did that.
Okay. And then Melissa asks Mr. Ping if people really believe in the hungry ghost stories. And he drives him to an old farmhouse saying he's lost, but we can see that he intended to come here. Well, Ping abandons them in the dark. They've been drinking a lot and they go to sleep. And after an hour or so, they go off looking for him. The farm seems to be abandoned and padlocked, but there are healthy animals in the cages. They hear voices and run back to the car, which they now find covered in blood. They start the car and drive off. At least Ping left them the car keys.
That was nice of you.
Yul explains that the animals outside were left as offerings for the dead. The chanting was an invitation. They listen to a creepy guy on the car radio, and then run off the road to avoid hitting a strange naked man crossing the road. This couple argues an awful lot for newlyweds, at least until they hit another guy on the road and then stop for him. They throw the man in the back seat just as the car is attacked by demons. They back way down the road until they run off the road and get stuck. The pair then abandons the car and head cross-country. They hear the demons attacking the abandoned car behind them.
Creepy demons, too.
Yeah, they're just sort of little short, little naked, bald men. They're very white, very pale.
Ghosty looking.
Ghosty, yeah. Melissa and Yul find a barn and hide inside. Yul explains that they need to find something alive and place it outside as a sacrifice, something for them to kill. The three fight over who is going to be the sacrifice. 4 or 5 of the creatures storm in, and things suddenly get quiet. The wounded man freaks out and runs away, with all the demons following him. They run through the fields and get into a car. It's hard to tell if this is the car they started in because it's so dark. It is the same car, and they watch the monsters tear the third man apart on the hood. They manage to run away again, and this time they barricade themselves in a large crypt in a cemetery. They hear a voice calling out to them, and they leave the crypt to walk to a huge candlelit house out in the woods. Inside the house are numerous people who don't speak a word. The voice says, "You'll be safe here." The people there then peel off Melissa's and Yul's clothes and watch them have sex for some unspoken reason. Because, if I'm been chased through the fields and the trees and the woods
that totally makes you horny.
Yeah, totally.
Totally. What a turn on.
Especially in front of that crowd of strange people.
Uh-huh. Newlyweds, yeah.
Yeah, there ain't nobody that newlywed. Suddenly, the spell is broken, and they see the monsters instead of the people. Somehow, they are tied up now. The monsters grab Yul and take him away. It's too dark to tell if they really killed him or not. Melissa unties herself and goes back into the house with the candles. She takes off the clothes the monsters dressed her in and puts her original outfit back on. I don't know, how did she change clothes the first time? She doesn't know.
Magic.
Mr. Ping reappears and explains that Yul made a great sacrifice. He explains how they came and took one of their people every year, so they started bringing in others for them to take away. Ping explains that they took him to a place to prepare him for his final journey, and Yul will be one of them before moonfall. She insists on following him, but Ping says they'll kill her, but all she has to do is follow the candle path. Well, she follows the path into a cave full of water, and her light goes out, which makes it even darker.
Yay.
The light comes back on, and she wanders around some more, walking between hundreds of the creatures in a trance. She finds Yul, who is waiting to die. He's lost too much blood. He tells her to run away before they all wake up. Not quite sure why they went to sleep in the first place.
You know, napsies. You know, they've had a big meal.
Yeah.
You know, you get napsy after you eat. You know.
She turns to leave and runs away with all the monsters right on her tail. She runs and they follow, and then the moon sets and they all turn to dust and she gets away. Poof. Well, it's all very dark outside. It's the Chinese countryside, and there's not a lot of electric lights out there. It was hard to tell who was who sometimes, and at one point I asked Kevin who the Chinese woman was. There wasn't a Chinese woman. Yeah, it was one of the other characters, and I just couldn't tell.
Yeah, it was kind of dark.
Yeah. The arguing between the newlyweds is annoying, and only there to distract us from how little is actually happening. The creature design is good. Basically, they're pale, white, naked, hairless people that don't speak, but are otherwise relentless.
They are.
I did not enjoy this one. The arguing in the beginning was really annoying and obnoxious. For newlyweds, these people were doomed from the start. There's a lot of running around in the dark, and too many easy escapes. The vision, or whatever it was, in the sexy house.
They were being toyed with.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were being allowed to escape.
Yeah. Well, the vision in the sexy house made no sense. Then there was an incredibly long walk through the tunnels in the dark before anything happened, and finally, it's suddenly over. There were definitely some creepy visuals here, and also some good makeup, but there's almost no story. Here's my summary of the story. A couple is terrorized by some demons in China. The end.
Wow, you really cut it to the core, didn't you?
I didn't like it. Not that one.
I give it a 6. That's how I rate it. 6 out of 10. That's how much I liked it.
4?
Okay.
4?
Fair enough.
And that's our show.
Yepers.
Thanks for joining us. Stop in at horrorguys.com to read all the reviews, comment, or whatever else you want to do. Again, get ready for next week, because we'll be watching
more movies.
More movies.
More movies.
We're going to watch Strange Confession for 1945. The last of the Inner Sanctum films. Going to have some fun with the twins.
Twins of Evil.
From 1971.
Hammer.
And then we'll spend some more time on a lonely country road, not in China this time, with The Monster from 2016. Hint, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will try to avoid the immortal Nazi necromancer in Blood Creek from 2009. An immortal Nazi necromancer. If that sounds a little overloaded, it's still good. I liked it.
Yep.
And that is our show.
Sure does.
See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.